Welcome to the Home Recording Show. This is episode 306, and I am Ryan Canestro.
And I'm Jon Tidey.
And we're going to do another show right now. Jon, would you like to do all the information about the where people can help support us?
Yeah, so if you want to support the show, if you enjoy our return to podcasting, head over to buymeacoffee.com/HRS podcast. There will be a link in the description of the video and in the show notes. With that, you can support the show with a $5 or higher donation. And if you do, your name gets put into the end of the show and in the show notes for that episode and every episode going forward, so people know that you're a supporter.
And I guess if you want us to stop doing the show, you could just go to homerecordingshow.com and leave us a comment and say, time to just hang it up, move on, do something else with your lives.
Yep. You can use that as well, just to ask a question as usual.
Oh yeah. Or use it for a good thing. I don't know.
But yeah, it's good to be back, and hope you guys are enjoying it. And girls.
And I finally got a good camera, so it doesn't look horrifying. And I think we're, the background's still not great, but we're getting there little by little. I'll catch up with Jon eventually.
Well, this was not a quick setup. This was many iterations and lots of incremental improvements to get to this point where I am not bothered horribly by it constantly. But I still always have the urge to change things. The acoustic panels behind me, you can't really see it. It's just a black area that I want at least to cover with a sheet or something that add some color. And then these, instead of having lights shining on them, just paint them pink and blue or whatever. And that would save so much effort just to paint them and then light them evenly, because I have to go through all this effort so that the lights in front of me don't wash this out so that you can't see the color tangent.
And already. My plan is to have like a nice little wood wall and have it lit nicely behind me and get my lighting setup dialed in. So little by little, that might happen eventually. Well, it will happen. How long eventually is the unknown.
So today's topic, we might jump back and forth between two kind of related topics. The first one is fancy studio accessories that are actually worth buying.
Yeah, like a nice little upgrade.
Yeah. So if you've got everything, what would be like the next step up if you've got a decent whatever? Or what is kind of like the best option in general?
Or fancy, just because of something that makes you happy, that makes your life a little easier, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it does the basic job plus something a little bit extra, a little quality of life upgrade. And then the other thing that we'll be talking about is repurposing photo and video gear, as well as maybe equipment from other industries that we can use in the home studio, that we can use for our YouTube studio, that we can use for making a podcast, things like that.
Yeah, because so much of this audio gear is so specialized and you pay a premium for it when maybe something from the automotive industry or some other place has basically the same exact thing for a fraction of the cost and maybe even better.
And anything that we talk about, we'll have links in the show notes to those products or to our Amazon page where you can support the show.
And if you have any suggestions, please throw them in there. We'll bring it up again. We always love to learn from the community, find out more. What are we missing? What are we not talking about? And I want to figure out more cool stuff too.
Yeah, if you guys have suggestions for this topic or like things that you've leveled up on, spent a little bit extra for the fancier version and it's been worth it, let us know and we'll check those products out. So I'll get this started with ball joint mic mounts. And so
sounds worse than it is.
Yeah. So the one you can see here on my, that I use on my Blue Compass mic arm, which in itself is one of those kind of better than the basic Amazon one upgrades. But that alone wasn't what makes me really like it. It's this ball joint thing. This is going to ruin my audio, twisting this and moving it around as I
But for the
record.
sake of demonstration, it's totally worth it.
Exactly. So this gives me a lot more range of motion with my heavy SM7B. And then I can lock it in and it's all metal. It was not cheap. It was probably like $50. You can buy a whole mic stand for that much. But I say it's worth it because it's really well made and it adds a lot of range of motion and getting things exactly as I want. And that's a sort of OCD thing that I need to distract me from making content. That's the Audio-Technica AT8459 swivel mount microphone clamp adapter. And there's another one that's similar that I considered, and it's from Triad Orbit. It's also expensive, but it's a ball joint like you might find on a camera tripod, where it gives you like full 360 range of motion, and you can lock it at a 90-degree angle, nice and sturdy, that you can tighten that up, and it locks that mic in that position, rather than just having this straight ahead sort of mic mount that a lot of condenser mics and things kind of limit your range of motion with. These add a lot more options for placing things in the exact position, and in the studio, millimeters matter for getting the right sound. So that's one of my recommendations.
And that's kind of the same thing I've done with C-stands from the grip world, movie world, for positioning microphones. Being able to have a ton of different options. You can have them all the way on the ground. You can have them way up in the sky. I've used C-stands with boom pole holders to put a microphone way above an orchestra, 20 feet above it. Being able to have that kind of flexibility. I've used them in the recording studio just with a condenser mic, just to put it exactly where I wanted it, right in front of Talent's face. A C-stand's $100, and it's really super sturdy. Throw a sandbag on it, and you're going to compete with anything a world-class stand in a studio is going to give you. It just doesn't look as pretty. So if you want to look more professional in the studio, high-end mic stands are very expensive, $400, $500, $600, but they are pretty amazing with locking gears and all of that nice stuff. That's one thing I wish I spent money on earlier, was high-end just microphone stands, basic ones.
Yeah,
I
just
still have
one or two really good stand.
And I'm still rocking the onstage stands. I've had, 2 bags of them, I think 6 each, bought a million years ago. These things are beat to hell, but they're still working, and still use them all the time. But I wish I had just like 2 nice ones from way back, because most of the time I'm just putting 1 or 2 mics up. They look better. They work better. They last longer. Maybe I should go buy 2 today. It's time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like $200 or $250 is a lot to spend on a mic stand. But like, if that's the one stand that you're gonna have out all the time,
Day
that's
in,
the one
day
that
out,
makes you want
decades.
to record, then it's probably worth it. And that's one of those things, if you got extra money up at your birthday or Christmas or whatever, that's the sort of upgrade that we're talking about here.
Little things that just bring you just 10% more joy, that could make all the difference in your day, in that recording, in that song, just having something a little nice.
And you mentioned the C-stands. I actually upgraded one of my cheaper mic stands with the clutch piece from the middle of a C-stand, at the top of the C-stand. It just turned out to be the center part was the same size pole as
the pin. Yeah.
You don't get infinite range of motion. It's in degrees, it's 5 degrees or something like that, but it stays in that position. And so I was using that for most of 2020, I think. And that was a huge upgrade over, cheap boom arms, like not like this one, but cheap scissor boom arms or basic mic stands, or mounting things to the desk, where I would get like mechanical interference. That's one of those things, like maybe you don't need the full C-stand. Maybe you've got a bunch of extra mic stand. Maybe you've got something that's heavy duty, but like one part broke. You can upgrade and get some more life out of it that way.
For sure. Also a big fan of furniture blankets, but also pull the quilt off your bed. I mean, you can use anything that's kind of heavy cloth to throw on a reflective surface, on the floor somewhere, make a horrible acoustic environment better just by heavy cloth. That's huge. And you would think that sometimes you just don't need it, but the difference, just throwing it down, take a listen. Big fan of that.
Yeah. Any room that's not carpeted that you're recording audio videos in, put down furniture blankets, moving pads, whatever you want to call it. They're pretty inexpensive, and they do a considerable amount to reduce echo. You can put them on the floor. You could, for a permanent solution, mount it to the ceiling with hooks, or you can make a mic stand into a T shape, hang your blankets off that. And that makes a big difference. And it seems like a janky solution for acoustics, but you see it in even the large studios. So
Yeah, I was shocked one day. I went into NRG in North Hollywood. It's a huge studio lined with gold records. And they have this big, beautiful room in Studio A where they've recorded a million countless classics. And they love that room because of the acoustics. But they were doing vocals that day. And they had built basically a vocal booth out of speed rail. And the whole thing was just covered in furniture blankets. That's what they built like a little fort out of. And they were recording vocals for a known band in that little setup in the middle of Studio A.
yeah, and for the artist, it looked like your background.
Yeah, exactly. Behind me is exactly what it looked like when they were in their little cave. And there was just a little, cut out in front. That's how they got the recordings done in that world-class studio. So you see them all the time.
Yeah.
There are thinner ones that are cheap, but you want the thicker one. And even if you just have one or two, it will make a big difference in your arsenal. So
this is not only something from other industries, it's also something that you might want to pay a bit extra for to get the thicker ones. So you don't have to
the
have
premium one.
You can buy many of the thinner ones and then maybe cover more area, or get a thicker one that's more effective on its own. So kind of one or the other, or get both. When I was interning at Metalworks, they'd probably had 25 of them in the studio, and you'd put them up around the drum kit to make like a tunnel with to reduce the cymbal bleed into the kick drum mics, making the live room a lot more dead around the microphone, that kind of thing.
And they're much more effective at knocking down highs because you need density of material to knock down lows. But they do knock down a ton of high end, and that's excellent for vocal ranges, for cymbals, for things like that.
Yeah. Not a permanent solution, but great, flexible, portable option. And you see that in all levels of production.
For sure.
Better than average mic cables is something that I think is worth investing in. A lot of time you're only recording one or two sources in the home studio. You can get by with the cheaper cables for sure, but you can also, maybe have slightly lower noise floor and eliminate a lot of the potential for interference. Having a nice high quality mic cable or instrument cables, you can get by with the Amazon Basic stuff. You can buy the mono price cables, and they get the job done. And sometimes it's even cheaper than making your own. Sometimes you want to treat yourself, just get some high quality, maybe Mogami, something.
Or Canary.
Or more high end than the standard stuff in it.
Do not go with the audiophile snake oil $500 cable. Those are not that much better. I mean, maybe a few percent better than any of the Mogami or Canary. But that stuff is garbage.
I'm talking maybe the $50 range for a cable.
I saw a network cable from one of these places. It was like a $500 Cat 6 cable. It's digital. It either works or it doesn't. There's no difference in audio quality over a digital cable. It's just ridiculous. So don't get caught up in any of that madness. But yeah, like a nice $50 20-foot cable with Neutrik connectors, Mogami cable. Use that for everything. Fantastic cable. The cheapest of the cheap versus that cable, you can audibly hear a difference. But anything in the mid-range is going to be negligible, and it's going to be if you're going to have 50 channels of something. But I'm big on cable. I'm big on copper. I'm big on quality of cable. That's something that just makes me crazy to not have. So huge on that one. Just having that higher quality cable does make a big difference, and it makes me feel better. Even if you can't hear it, I'm like, I have a quality cable, quality connector. I feel like I did my part.
So often when you have a studio full of cables, you often need to make repairs. Soldering is such an important skill for any home studio owner.
And so much cheaper if you're going to make all of your own cables. Yeah. You can buy bulk cable and connectors and make them for a fraction of the price. So
probably should do a video on that. I could probably make a list of all the different kind of adapters that I've made or show them off.
I just soldered a ton of cables over the last 2 weeks, little 5-pin mini XLRs and all that stuff. It's not fun sometimes, and it definitely, you'll spend some time doing it, but super worth it because the amount of cables I made over the last 2 weeks would have been over $1,000 easily.
Yeah.
And I made them all for stuff I already had here and another $250 in connectors.
So on this topic, one of the things that can make your life easier when building cables, when building adapters or fixing things is a helping hands tool, which is just, a heavy metal base with some arms and clips that hold your cables, things as you're soldering so that you don't burn yourself constantly, you don't dropping things. I pretty much any injury I've gotten from soldering has been because of not having things clamped down properly. So there's actually a couple of them that I've found on Amazon that I'll link to in the description. Hard to talk about these things without showing them.
But even the cheapest ones, like I should upgrade because I do solder a lot and I'm still using the first thing I bought. So I had a thing.
Yeah.
But Jon found some really cool ones where there's like 4 arms and it's got a little vent fan and they're the little bendy arms with little alligator clips at the end.
They're nice and long and they're sturdy. They can hold lots of weight. There's multiple arms, so the weight's more distributed and they don't just sag. And it's just a nice larger work surface. So I know some people that have had these things and they swear by them. They're totally worth the upgrade cost. My own setup right now is just something I made from a couple scrap 2x4s and some little alligator clips that I've got. I cable clamped one to a ball joint, like a speaker mount or something, like just junk that I had lying around.
And these things are not expensive. So I think this episode's going to cost me a lot of money today because I'm like, why don't I have that already?
Right. We're talking about things that are like $40 sometimes. These helping hands are $40, but they do so much more than the $12 one or the junk, the DIY one. So I think they're worth getting and
yeah, minimal money, maximum output.
Yeah. So if you make one cable a year, it's going to be worth buying one of these things.
I do a ton of miking on talent. So lav mics hidden in clothing. And I use a ton of stuff from other departments, other industries. Double stick tape, I use a ton of. Super stick it is something I use. I'll fold them in half. I'll cut little notches in them and I'll be able to put them on the back of any of the mounts I have for my mics and just stick that directly to clothing.
That's the brand name?
Super stick it, and there's an exclamation point on the end.
It's a double-sided tape?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's very sticky. And I'll also use that, like if I have to put Velcro on something and you have that adhesive on the back of your Velcro, sometimes I'll put the super stick on that and it will not come off of the thing you put on. It is really, really sticky stuff.
Nice.
And you have to be careful on some clothing. If it's a kind of a loose fiber material, it'll rip some of that stuff off. I've had some wardrobe, it was a little aggressive with. Synthetic fibers, it'll hold on real good and it'll come off without ripping them apart. Be careful with that. And then I'll use things like safety pins. You just go down to CVS and buy a small safety pins. You can mount a mic to the back of that.
Oh, for mounting the mic. I was going to say for strain relief.
No, so you can put the microphone with rubber bands or something right onto a safety pin and put the safety pin right in close. And that way you're in there. That thing is not coming off. If you're afraid that, it's going to be someone's doing a lot of action and the tape won't hold, or if they're sweating a lot, sometimes they'll sweat the things right off. A little safety pin will get the job done. I pull from all different kinds of things, whatever will do the job. Medical tape, use that a lot. Transport tape. Even there's another kind that's it's almost like a rubbery kind of tape. That's a medical tape. You can use that for people with sensitive skin. You put that on first, and then you could tape the mic to their skin on top of that tape, which is hypoallergenic. Easy for me to say right now. But yeah, there's so many different little places you can pull from in different industries. Medical, we use medical wipes all the time to clean things down. Instead of using alcohol, there's a new kind of wipe that we're using from the medical field that is a disinfectant without using alcohol, because too much alcohol will wear down the microphones you're cleaning. It'll kind of disintegrate that rubber and plastic.
Yeah.
So the medical industry, I do pull a lot of stuff from. They have little latex things that are for ultrasound probes that we can use to cover the transmitters for people that are sweating to protect the transmitters.
Yeah, this is all stuff that you don't think about on your first day of shooting, but like
No.
it's one of those specialist things that like you just collect over time.
Yep. And I've got all kinds of things like that in my kit, that little tips and tricks I've picked up along the way. But a lot of it comes from different industries. And then, of course, the sound houses will see that people are doing that, and then they'll stock all of these things and then double or triple the price.
A lot of those disposable things, that's all billable, right? In some way.
Yeah, those all get charged at production at the beginning of a shoot.
So it works out.
It does work out.
I wanted to ask you about gaffer tape, because I keep looking at it on Amazon. I know I need some gaff. Why is it so expensive? And is it worth spending more on that?
Got a roll of it right here. The cool thing about this tape is it's easy to rip. It comes right apart.
Right.
But also it'll stick to things and it'll come off clean.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it. I mean, I use it all the time. It's just one of those things where I don't use a lot of it all the time, but I do use the stuff constantly.
It's one of those things that I know that I need. I will constantly have uses for, but it's not. Because of the cost, it's like I won't want to use it.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't buy it if I had to cut the check for it. But they are on expendables budgets, so I make sure I always have it. I use it every day.
What brands do you like?
What is this stuff? This is Pro Gaff USA.
Okay, that's what I'll get then.
Yep. And just get one roll of it. It lasts me a very long time because I don't use large strips of it. I pull off small pieces. Like today when I was getting ready for this, one of the lights was kind of bleeding back into the camera. So I took a little piece of gaff, put it over the little hole in the back of the light. Problem solved.
Yeah.
And it can handle the heat. It'll come right off after it's done. Won't leave a residue.
You've got some on your headphones right now?
Do I? No.
On the sides.
Do I?
I think.
Oh, yeah, I do. And the reason for that was these were in a shoot. They were being seen and they couldn't have the branding. So you can use it to Greek stuff out. Yeah. That's funny. I didn't even know it was on here.
You see that pretty often in reality TV shows, T-shirts and hats and everything covered in black gaffer tape.
Yep. Because someone on set's got it.
My next suggestion comes from the film world, the grip world. It's these, you call them Mayfer clamps.
Yeah.
These ones here are Manfrotto,
Matthews?
Commonly called super clamps. So aluminum, big, beefy kind of knobs and such. Baby pin mount plus 1/4-20. And some of them come with these little inserts that allow you to mount it flat on a tabletop or like on a 2x4 or something like that. But without that, you can do pipes or tables at a slight angle. I've got little adapters that will mount 2 of these at 45 degrees or 90 degrees. And then you can build out like scaffolding if you needed to from these things. Yeah. So what I use them for is I've got my lights hanging from acoustic panels with that, plus tripod extension arms. But I've used those also for mounting cameras, for mounting cell phones. For a long time, I had a mic mounted to my desk with that, and then a little like magic arm, a little flexible ball joint thing, and I had a shotgun on my desk, and that worked great. Other than occasionally interference from tapping on the keyboard or whatever. It's a great thing because it's like, you know that it's sturdy. You know, it's not going to go anywhere. I can see 4, if just looking around, not counting the one that was in my hand, where they're being used in my studio right now.
Yeah, I use those and Cardellini's. Those are 2 little clamps that come together and will grab onto a pipe. Same kind of idea, that have the pin already in them.
I need to get one of them.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those, and I'll mount microphones in odd places. You can just grab onto something and put a mic ahead or just anywhere you want it. I I use them constantly with little attachments to have mics on them, with a shock mount, mounting cameras, antennas. I use them a lot for antennas. You could put an antenna anywhere, and then I can remote into that, so I can have my wireless anywhere I need it. They're fantastic. I use them every day, all the time. I don't have any in here because everything's on a truck right now, but super useful. And that's basic grip gear. If you ever have a chance to go into a place like Film Tools in Burbank, or there's several stores that have all this, like a whole grip section where you could just go and see all of the parts. It's like the world's largest erector set, and you can build anything out of this stuff. And they've got the standard size and then smaller versions too, that you can make tiny little mounts, but they have all the same parts, and you can put anything anywhere. You can mount, a small camera or a large camera, however you want to do it, whatever you want to do. You can build anything you can imagine with all of those parts. Grip stuff is fun.
Yeah.
When you don't have to carry sandbags uphill, grip stuff is fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that at my next studio, I'm going to have like a hanging pipe grid just to mount everything to.
That's smart.
And
that speed rail.
Yeah. Yep. That will help a lot, I think.
Hey, too bad you don't live closer, because I gave away all of my speed rail. I had a ton of it because my dad was a grip. So I came up as a kid learning about all this stuff. And we built some massive, massive things out of this stuff. I mean, we built big 40-foot by 40-foot frames and then flew those above people's heads. Talk about safety. We talked about last week.
Yeah. I think that is really underused in recording studios. Just having
for sure
overhead mounted things for mics, for lights, for acoustic panels. And then, and because it's all like little clamps and things, you can always move it around pretty easily and secure it with often see like little chains or
safety chain.
And so you can never have to worry about things falling on the talent.
Yeah,
well.
I just did a job where it was a convention center, and we had this huge floor, and there was one area where I had to have two mics basically hidden to pick up everything that was going on in that room. So I did use two Cardellini's and mounted to the pipe that was behind the drapes that they set up for the back walls. And I had mounted just two 416 Sennheisers on either corner of that set behind the drape and curtain, and mounted right to the posts that they put up the drapes with, and had the mics right behind the curtains, and had a stereo image of that entire room. And it was just pop them in, boom, 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 run the XLR. That easy. So I just got a new tablet for my whole cart setup, so I can have it just mounted. I got just a basic stand on Amazon. It was $50. It is has a clamp, like a standard clamp you would find on a camera type mount, where you would twist it down and the little plunger comes down. It had a nice little nice metal base, and then a couple ball mounts so I can position it wherever I want. And then I have that tablet just right to the side of my cart, so I can read scripts, which is super convenient, over paper, turning pages, and have like a music stand, which was my original plan. And then use that tablet for additional controls. So I could see in a studio having some kind of controls over your DAW right there on a nice tablet, and then reference your notes instead of having to go to the computer, just having it right there. Even though my laptop's sitting on top of the cart, just having that tablet there actually was super convenient, and wasn't really something I was planning on, but splurged on it. And I've only had it for a day now, and I love it. It's really made my life easier. So, and the tablet was $200, brand new Samsung 10-inch tablet.
Yeah.
Wasn't a ton of money, but it made me happy. It made it easier to have just access right there. I could jot down a quick note, I can read my script, and I can control my my audio interface. So it was super nice. I didn't think I would love it as much as I do.
Yeah, I have a couple iPads, and often I forget to put them up because I don't have a dedicated spot for them. But some examples of where you can use those in a studio is like Reaper has the web remote function, so you can make a custom remote control, but you could also just use one of their built-in the monitor mixer control. So if you have people out in the studio, they each have their own headphone mix that you can set up through Reaper. you can configure that on a touchscreen, so you can have that in the studio, and then they can also control it from their phones if they wanted to, if you give them access to it.
Yeah.
You could also,
well, you could tie that into home automation as well for lighting, for any of that you can put on your iPad or tablet. And if, someone's in the studio and they need brighter lights or something, you can actually give them control to that if you have any of the smart home stuff going on.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can also use it as an external monitor, an extension of, so rather than a standalone device, it kind of extends your computer monitor. There's usually like a USB adapter or some software that you need to connect. So like sometimes when I'm editing, I'll have my LUFS meter on that external tablet, or I'll have the video window on that tablet. So I have got my full screen dedicated to what I'm working on in the range view, and then extra stuff that I don't need super high quality detail or whatever is over there on the tablet. So I've been doing that for years.
Certainly makes your life easier. Yeah, that's great. When you start doing that and it just becomes so much easier, so much more comfortable. It's those little things that just make your life easier in the studio. And a lot of them we're doing and just don't even think to mention. But it's good we're kind of going through our lives and figuring out what is like second nature to us, but maybe other people hadn't thought of yet.
Yeah. Things like a keyboard drawer with a mouse pad that has an armrest on it. Those sorts of things aid with comfort. They let you clear the space when you don't need it. All these little things that kind of add up.
Yeah, I bought a nice keyboard about a year ago, maybe two, where like a cherry switches, and it just has a nice feel. I enjoy typing more now. Like those little things, you don't really think about it. I was like, just get like the $10 keyboard. But when you buy the $100 keyboard, you're like, ooh, where's this been my whole life?
Yep. Yeah, I've got a couple mechanical keyboards here. Both have issues. The Razer software doesn't work that well on Mac. This other keyboard works fine on Mac, but then sometimes the spacebar doesn't work. So
that's super not useful at all.
No. Something a little nicer, such as a keyboard, such as a mouse, makes you want to use your computer more. You enjoy it more, less repetitive strain injuries.
I mean, it's literally the way you interface with these devices. So some of these external things that you don't think matter sometimes do, just to get you in the mood, get you in the spirit.
Yeah,
make you feel a little better.
That $5 Dell mouse that came with your computer in 2003, upgrade.
Might be time. And yeah, having a nice mouse with a couple extra buttons on it that you can just set macros or commonly used things, especially working in a DAW, makes a big difference for sure.
I've got a Corsair something. Scimitar, I think it's called.
Something. I think that's nice.
I think it's called the Scimitar, and it has 20 buttons on it.
That seems like too many buttons.
It is too many buttons. I use like 2 or 3.
3?
I use like 3. One extra button besides the left and right click. But yeah,
that's probably
it's nice.
A cautionary tale not to go too over the top as well.
I got it at a pawn shop just because it was cheap. And then,
okay.
Yeah. I think that's it for this one. I'd love to hear some suggestions from the audience of anything along this sort of line, something that you've upgraded to a better version, or you went with a better version from the beginning because you saw complaints or usability issues or whatever it is. Or if there's something from another industry, photo, video gear, very common to move over into the studio, especially now that video is so important for marketing anything.
Yeah, video's a thing now. We're doing it. You got to do it. I'm learning.
And so, yeah, is there something from, probably not from the restaurant industry, but you never know. Maybe there is. I'd love to hear something from you guys in the comments. And thank you for watching, for listening, and for supporting the show. Check out the website for links to the things that we've talked about, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
See you next time.